Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Kriya Yoga online YouTube channel. Today, I have a very interesting and special presentation. I was going to put this on the Asheville Vedic Astrology YouTube channel, but it has a lot of application to our practices as Kriya Yogis and meditators. So, first of all, as you know, my name is Ryan Kurzak, and I am the founder of the Asheville Vedic Astrology Apprenticeship Program. And what we're going to do today is offer a lecture on the tropical zodiac and the chakra system. Now, this lecture was created by one of our Asheville Vedic Astrology Apprenticeship students who's in her practicum year of study. So, after an apprenticeship student completes their formal academic studies, they're required to complete a practicum year to graduate the program. And the practicum year requires that a student completes 3 10,000-word papers, 3 professional 1-hour instructional videos, and 42 donation-based astrological sessions. And in the 9 years of existence of the Asheville Vedic Astrology Apprenticeship Program, we've only had 8 students make it this far, 8 really who have graduated, and Bronwyn will be the 9th. Now, we do have a few other students who are also near the end of their training, but we'll see who gets to number 9 first. Now, Bronwyn's a very talented, informed, and thoughtful astrologer, and I'm delighted to know that she's about to become a professional astrologer or to work in that capacity. She offered a session to my partner, not knowing who she was working with, and she did an excellent job of assessment and astrological counseling, so I can't recommend her enough. Now, her topic is the tropical zodiac and the chakra system. Keep in mind, those of you who might be informed about the controversy of the zodiacs, that at the Asheville Vedic Astrology Apprenticeship Program, we do discuss the reasons behind the different perspectives of the zodiacs, but we allow students, we encourage them to come to their own conclusions. And we do have several students who utilize both the sidereal and the tropical zodiacs. Now, one of the reasons that it worked out, and I wanted to put this particular video on this channel instead of my Asheville Vedic Astrology YouTube channel, is because it doesn't only describe how astrology works on a very deep and profound level, but it also gives insights into how the Kriya Yoga system works. And really, any spiritual system that puts an emphasis on the body awareness of the chakras, as well as the nadis and the energetic channels within the body. It explains how and why those systems are so effective for our own spiritual growth. So, without anything else to say, really, I hope you enjoy this presentation by Bronwyn Beata. And if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comment section below. So this is Bronwyn Beata, and her lecture is on the tropical zodiac and the chakra system. All right, here we go.
Hello, my name is Bronwyn Beata. Today I'm presenting on the topic of connecting the tropical zodiac with your chakra system. The power to change your karma lies within you. This is my first video of 3 required for certification through the Asheville Vedic Astrology program. A little bit about me. I'm in my practicum year at the time of this recording, and I just wanted to share what I'm most enthusiastic about. For one, it is this apprenticeship, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. The second thing is that I'm practicing being present more than ever, and I'm not perfect at it yet, but I feel like that's important to mention, that I'm trying. And also, I'm really enthusiastic about living in a both-and paradigm. And I bring this up because it's really prevalent to be in either or thinking I'm this or I'm that, when the truth is really both and. And that's what's really going on. And so I'm using both the science and the art of Vedic astrology. I can get super intellectual and be very embodied in my experience. And so I'm bringing up being present and having this both and mentality as we're going through this presentation, because you'll find that this is a very intellectual way to discuss the chakras and to discuss karmas. And you may find that if you go through this practice yourself, it's a very embodied thing that you'll be doing potentially. So I just wanted to mention that. And also the presence piece, just always being present with what's happening in your life, what's going on in your mind, what's happening in your emotions, and just seeing things for what they are. So here's what you're going to get from this video. I'm going to go through a description of the general nature of karma, and you'll find as we go through and get to the end especially that this concept of karma really comes forward. And then I'm also going to go into a few basic concepts that are found in Vedic astrology, just to review those. And then we're going to connect the tropical zodiac to your chakra system, which is found along your spine. After that, we'll travel through descriptions of each of the chakras. It'll be kind of like a type of hero's journey. And then we're going to go through how you can change your fate through the power of meditating by going through this journey through your chakra system. And then I have a couple of case study examples for you at the end. Now we're going to look at karma. The birth chart is a snapshot of the moment you were born. And so this is simply indicating to us the momentum that your soul has carried from previous lifetimes. And, when we think about this momentum, you don't have to think about it as something like, oh, this is who I am for forever. They're merely habits or tendencies that you've had for so long. And they're not fixed. It's not fatalistic. And so with this birth chart that you have, we're merely looking at your default settings. And lucky for all of us, these settings are customizable. So when you think about karma, remember that it's not fixed, that this is just something that you were born with, and it's the starting place. It's what you get to work with. Karmas are also meant to be exhausted or burned through. They're meant to have their day in the sun and then go away. Or if you're working with your karmas very consciously, then maybe some of these experiences that you're meant to have don't actually have to happen, or they can be lessened to a greater degree. It gets interesting in that way. And so there are some karmas that are thicker and more difficult to change, and a lot of us might be experiencing that. And then there are karmas that are a little bit thinner. Maybe you had tummy aches as a child, and there's an indication in your chart that you were supposed to have digestive problems, but you burned through that by the time you were 6 years old. Ta-da! These things work themselves out. The other thing to keep in mind as we're going through this, and what you'll see, is the reason we're talking about karma is that they are directly linked to your chakras. And just to drive home the point that karmas are not fixed, I have here a quote from Sri Yukteswar, who is the guru of Paramhansa Yogananda. And this is a quote out of the Autobiography of a Yogi, which was written by Paramhansa Yogananda. And so it goes like this. The message boldly emblazoned across the heavens at the moment of birth is not meant to emphasize fate, the result of past good and evil, but to arouse man's will to escape from his universal thraldom. What he has done, he can undo. None other than himself was the instigator of the causes of whatever effects are now prevalent in his life. He can overcome any limitation because he created it by his own actions in the first place. and because he has spiritual resources which are not subject to planetary pressure. This is amazing news for all of us. Now consider this analogy that your life and your karmic imprints are like a vehicle driving really fast down a road. As the driver, it's like you're the pure consciousness within, and your vehicle is your life in this incarnation. So maybe you're aware of some quirks with your car and you've got it under control. This is more like having karma that you're conscious of, that you're aware of. But then your brakes fail. If you're unconscious about your karma, it's as if you're asleep at the wheel as this pure consciousness within, and then as a cliff approaches, you're going to fly right off of it. And maybe in your life you've noticed some patterning where you've been unconscious about something and you do fly off that cliff again and again and again, and you're like, hey, I'm tired of this. Possibly. And so as you become more aware of your karma and your karmic tendencies, then you become more aware that the brakes might have some issues. And so when they fail, you're more awake and you're able to grab the emergency brake or do whatever you need to do to slow things down and avoid a total crash and burn. As you approach your karma, remember that at your disposal, you have masculine and feminine approaches. So the masculine approach is the one I think that we're all more familiar with. And this is the energy of doing, of taking deliberate action to change the patterns in your life. The feminine is actually more about being. That's the energy of the feminine. And it doesn't mean being walked all over like a doormat. It's actually quite powerful to use the feminine. And this means that you can reduce your reactivity to a situation, or you simply withdraw yourself from an unhelpful situation. And so usually both positive and negative polarities can be applied. So the masculine is the positive polarity and the feminine is the negative polarity. And as you can see in this yin-yang symbol, that the masculine is never without the feminine and the feminine is never without the masculine. So remember that these can be taken together, and keep this in mind because as we're moving forward with this presentation, we're going to be talking a lot about the polarities, the masculine positive polarity and the feminine negative polarity. Okay, so here's a really basic concept regarding astrology, but I feel like it's important to bring this forward considering that we're going to be talking about the planets and the signs and how it connects to your chakra system within you. So a lot of the time it can be really easy to only think of the planets as outside of ourselves and the nodes as well. And so it's so crucial to remember that they're not only outside of you, but they're also energetics within you. They're archetypes within you. So at the moment you were born, the physical location of the planets and the nodes in the sky imprinted themselves on your physical body, your mental emotional body, and your spiritual body. So here we are with the both and, again, this paradigm. You are both a representation of the planetary precession at the moment you were born, and you have free will to change your life and your trajectory. Here is the South Indian style chart of the signs of the zodiac, and I just want you to see this in case you're not already familiar with it, because this is the layout that I'll be using in this presentation to start to show you how the chakras and the zodiac signs line up. Also, just on a really basic level, I'm going to look at the planetary qualities here so that when we're looking at each sign and we're thinking about which planet owns that sign, you can also keep in the back of your mind the archetypal qualities that 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 planet represents. And so this list is not exhaustive by any means. So we'll just quickly go through these though, just so that you can start thinking about these if you're not already familiar with them. So the sun can represent vitality, intelligence, leadership, commitment. The moon is our emotions. It can be soothing and comforting, and also can represent our intuition. Mars is our instinct and immediate action, courageousness, and harshness. Mercury is contemplation, communication, management, and experimentation. Jupiter represents expansion, optimism, grace, and creativity. Venus, love, appreciation of beauty. It also represents our decision making and fairness. Saturn can mean hard work, focus, endurance, and being realistic. And lastly, in this basics section, I just want to put in a quick reminder that what I'm discussing here is only one small facet of the diamond of astrology, and that this diamond can be turned around in all kinds of different directions, and light can be shining into it from so many different angles to come up with so many different truths and real experiences. And so I just want to have a quick reminder here that as we're talking about the chakras, that this is just one minor facet of astrology. And also just when you're thinking about your own chart and your own astrology, just remember that this isn't the whole, that it's always important to consider the totality of your chart, the totality of your experiences, and how you've been working with your karmas. Let's take a brief dip now into the chakras, and then we'll start tying them into the zodiac. But what is a chakra? Chakras are energetically near the physical plexuses of nerves in your body and where your endocrine glands tend to be. And so because chakras are energetic, they're more of a subtle, embodied energy and not so much a physical thing like a bone or a muscle. And so when we think about these, it's really easy to get in our heads about them and say, oh, the root chakra means this and that. And it can. And we're going to go into what the root chakra means, for example. But just know that when you're thinking about them, keep in mind this both and of embodying that feeling, how these energies are expressing, and it's not just all these, the mental constructs that we might have about a chakra. But we are going to be talking more about the intellectualizing of the chakras. So, like I said, this is a both and kind of presentation here. So, in the intellectual realm, know that each chakra has a positive outgoing masculine polarity, like the sun has, and a negative incoming feminine polarity like the moon. And as you're about to see, each chakra is represented by two zodiac signs, a positive polarity sign and a negative polarity sign. And also each chakra within your body contains your unique expression of your own karmas. Now let's jump into the zodiac piece of this. So the sun is so crucial to us even having a zodiac. Without the sun, the earth wouldn't have a path for the zodiac to be recognized. And of course, this is from the perspective of earth, right? All zodiac signs are fundamentally sun-based because they follow the sun's ecliptic path. This means that Aries is sun-based, Taurus is sun-based, Gemini is sun-based, at its most foundational level. It's the solar zodiac that determines concrete experiences in your life. However, we still include the moon as a necessary part of the zodiac, and this is because in Vedic astrology, the moon is considered a luminary just like the sun. The moon also has its own zodiac. So the moon rules over the 27 nakshatras which make up the lunar zodiac. Now, nakshatras are used to determine the Vimshottari dasha system, which is used for evaluating what planetary cycle you're experiencing. And I just want to say too that the nakshatras have so many other uses. So this is just one of the things that we look at. And so when we look at which planetary cycle you're in, based on the Vimshottari dasha system, we can see how you're feeling about a concrete event that's happening in your life. Let's take a moment here to just review some very basic principles about the moon and the sun, because they both hold these two zodiacs. The moon represents the negative polarity, incoming energy, the feminine principle, even signs in the zodiac, the left side of the body and the back side of the body. The sun is representative of the positive polarity, outgoing energy, the masculine principle, odd signs in the zodiac, the right side of the body and the front side of the body. So remember these things, because as we start to get into how the chakras are operating, we're bringing in both of these polarities, because each chakra has a moon side and a sun side, so to speak. It's time to start overlapping a few of these concepts together now. So I'm showing you the South Indian style chart, and we're starting at Aries up at the top as sign number 1. It's an odd sign, and you can see that the sun is over it and a plus sign. And so what I'm indicating here is that that's the positive polarity of the sun having rulership over Aries. Now, yes, the sun is fundamentally, at a most foundational level, in charge of all of the zodiac signs. And we are now starting to split it into a second level where the moon comes in, and the moon starts to take rulership over the even signs. So as we look at the sun ruling over the odd signs, we're looking at Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. And then looking now at the moon ruling the even signs, Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces. So keep this in mind as we move forward, that we're starting fundamentally, yes, the sun rules all the zodiac signs, and then we split it into the moon ruling the even signs. This is so important for the polarity, the energetic of the give and take. And then you'll see in our next slide how the sun and the moon split this rulership up into another level where the planets start to take a stewardship role over each sign. Here's where we're starting to create this third layer of rulership for each of the signs. If you look at Aries, for example, Mars is now designated over Aries. Aries continues to have the positive polarity of the sun, as we saw in the previous slide. And if you look next door to it in Taurus, you can see that Venus is now the ruler of Taurus, and it's keeping the negative polarity of the moon. And so this goes in the same way, clockwise, throughout the entire zodiac. So now back to Aries for a moment here. Mars is the ruler, the steward, over the sign of Aries. Look directly below it, from one yellow square down to the next yellow square, and you see Scorpio. Mars is also designated over Scorpio's sign, but it's the negative polarity that's an even sign. So now we're seeing where the signs are having a negative and a positive polarity ruled over by the same planet. And you can see this with each of the planets. We'll start on the left side with the red squares, Aquarius and Capricorn there. Those are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is in charge of Capricorn, the even sign, the negative polarity, the feminine aspect. And Saturn is also in charge of Aquarius, the masculine polarity, the positive, outgoing polarity of of that sign. And Jupiter is the negative polarity because it's an even sign over Pisces. And in Sagittarius, it's also ruling that as the positive polarity. And Venus, again, if we jump to Taurus, is the more feminine side of Venus's rulership, and Libra is the masculine side of Venus's rulership. Going to the top right-hand corner, Mercury is ruling over Gemini. Gemini is an odd sign. It has that positive polarity happening for it, that more masculine side, outgoing. And then Virgo, directly below it, is the more feminine aspect of Mercury's rulership. Cancer continues to hold on to the rulership from the moon, just like Leo continues to hold on to the rulership from the sun. Now, if I could have you use your imagination here for a moment, we're going to manipulate this South Indian chart by pulling the right-hand side of Cancer and Leo a little bit more to the right, and on the left-hand side where Capricorn and Aquarius are, ruled by Saturn, we're going to pull that to the left. So here we go. We're pulling that chart, we're squeezing it together, we're compressing it into this visual of having Aquarius and Capricorn. You're seeing they're both ruled by Saturn. At the top, we've got the sun's rulership of that, just that reminder of that positive polarity. And then below it in Capricorn, the moon rulership underneath that layer of Saturn with the negative polarity. And so on. So we've got, next up is Jupiter ruling Pisces and Sagittarius, those different polarities. And then again, going to the right, Mars having rulership over Aries and Scorpio, again with the different polarities. Next, Venus ruling Taurus and Libra. Next, Mercury ruling Gemini and Virgo. And then finally, Cancer and Leo being ruled by the moon respectively and the sun respectively. And so this just gives a tighter visual of how these rulerships are happening. Now in this next slide, we're actually going to turn this visual up on its head, and you're going to see how beautifully this is all going to start to come together. Okay, so now we see this visual upright, and it's resembling the chakras along the spine. I've got them color-coded here in the typical colors associated with the chakras. So at the first chakra, at the very base, there's red. And this is ruled by Saturn, because here we have Capricorn and Aquarius making up this first chakra. And we have the polarities. This first chakra has the positive polarity side and the negative polarity side. And then the second chakra, moving on up, Sagittarius and Pisces are both in the second chakra. That's what makes up this energetic here, ruled by Jupiter, both with the positive and negative polarities. Now moving forward into the third chakra, that solar plexus chakra, ruled by Mars. Aries and Scorpio are making it up, Aries with the positive polarity and Scorpio with the negative polarity. And then into the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, ruled by Venus. This is Taurus and Libra. We've got Libra in the masculine, we've got Taurus in the feminine. And then in the throat chakra, the fifth chakra, this is containing Gemini and Virgo, both ruled by Mercury. So we've got the positive and the negative polarities there. And then at the third eye, the brow chakra, the sixth chakra, we've got Cancer and Leo. Cancer being ruled by the moon, having that more feminine, negative polarity, and then Leo being ruled by the sun, having a positive polarity. You're also seeing that I have dates that are overlaid here, the dates of the solstices. And we get to utilize the sun's path from our perspective here on Earth to traverse the zodiac with its polarities up and down the spine. We start at the southern solstice in December, which usually begins either December 20th to the 21st or the 22nd, somewhere in that range. And then we follow the sun's path through the zodiac up through the positive and negative polarities until we reach the northern solstice in June, which can be anywhere from June 20th to the 22nd. Then we continue from the top back down to the base. And this creates a cycle over and over again, a new year over and over again, a new solar year, so to speak. And this can also translate to the cycles of breathing up and down your spine through the chakras. So this is how the zodiac aligns with our chakras along the spinal column. And I've made a note here that you'll notice that we're not including the 7th chakra at the crown, and this is because that chakra is beyond form. So you may also be noticing that the positives and negatives are kind of grouped together here, and that we just kind of made a straight line up and a straight line down. Well, the truth of the matter, what happens here is they actually interweave, because as you'll remember, we talked about the more feminine negative polarity being on the back side of the body and the left side, and the masculine positive polarity being in the front and on the right. So in these next couple of slides, I'll take this concept and apply it to the chakras as popularly depicted, how we usually might see pictures of chakras, but showing their negative and positive polarity placements. This is a view of the chakra system, how we might typically have seen it. And you'll notice that on the left side of this body, we have all of the even numbered signs, like Cancer, Virgo, Taurus, etc. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see all of the odd numbered signs. And so this gives an idea of where these zodiac signs are placed along our chakra system. And you'll also notice that each chakra is still having that same energetic that was associated with a planet. So the planet Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. This is a first chakra energetic. So we've got Capricorn where we start and on the left, and then we move from the left to the right to Aquarius, and you can see that indicated by a red line, a red arrow there. And then continuing with the red arrow, go from Aquarius on the right hand side of the first chakra up to the left hand side of the second chakra, where there's Pisces, a Jupiter ruled sign. And so you'll notice again that this second chakra is ruled by Jupiter. Because Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. But we're not to Sagittarius yet. We're still on our way up. So we've gone from Capricorn at the base to Aquarius, still in the base, and then up into Pisces. And then from Pisces, we take it up into the right-hand side of the third chakra in Aries. And so this continues on until we get all the way up to Cancer, the left-hand side of the 6th chakra at the top there. And that's when it moves over into the right-hand side of the 6th chakra into Leo. And then now you can follow the white arrows all the way down. And we'll continue with this flow, because this is a flow, it's a cycle, as we talked about. And we'll look at it from the front and back perspective in the next slide. So here again, you're seeing how the zodiac signs are grouped together, the even ones now being on the back side of the body, and the odd signs being on the front side of the body. So the negative polarity of the first chakra, represented by Capricorn, is in the back, and the positive polarity of the first chakra is in the front, represented by Aquarius. And then from Aquarius, we move into Pisces, going into the back of the second chakra. And then from Pisces, going from the back of the second into the front of the third chakra in Aries. And so this is a similar flow like you saw in the previous slide. And because it is always flowing, think about how the front side, the back side, the left and the right, they're always in motion. There's always this flow, and it creates a bit of a double helix. It's important to recognize the roles of North and South when it comes to the zodiac signs because it ends up playing a really important role in how our chakras function, as we'll see later on here. So, as we all know, the equator determines the northern and southern hemispheres, and it's the equinoxes which determine which signs are in the north and which ones are in the south of the zodiac. So the northern portion begins in Aries and it goes until the end of Virgo. And then the southern portion begins in Libra and goes until the end of Pisces. Here we get to bring in a little bit of Vedic mythology. The northern hemisphere represents the realm of the Devas, or gods. The southern hemisphere represents the realm of the Asuras, or demons. So here's the translation. The Devas represent our ideals, our inspiration, and it gives a higher perspective, gives us that more big picture point of view. The Asuras deal with hardships and getting the job done. So Deva energy is required for creating solutions and doing the honorable thing from having perspective. Asura energy is required for being in the thick of a hard situation. It means adapting and buckling down and doing whatever it takes to get through life. So here we are again with this both and paradigm that I mentioned at the beginning. We require both hemispheres to function in this world. We're about to go on the hero's journey through the zodiac signs of your chakras. And in order to do that, we're going to use the sun as our guide. And why are we using the sun? Because the sun represents your individual consciousness of your soul. It has life-giving qualities, and it represents your vitality. It's also your capacity to intelligently express your unique individual part of the divine. And as we talked about previously, all zodiac signs are based on the sun's path from our perspective here on Earth. So we're going to be following and observing the sun through the different zodiac signs, starting with the southern solstice in December in the back and left of the base chakra. And so what can you do with this information? Well, you can use it for planning out your year, or you can use it in your meditation and go through your own zodiac to see where you have karmas represented by the planets, and you can work through those karmic imprints through this flow. As we use the sun to journey through the zodiac, we're going to begin in the realm of the Asuras, which means the hard work, at the Capricorn solstice. Then we're going to travel to the realm of the Devas, where our inspiration lies, at the Cancer solstice. Then we're going to trek back through the north into the south again with a new perspective to implement the things that we've thought that we might do better. When we reach the southern solstice, we're going to start all over again. It becomes a cycle of understanding, growth, and renewal, especially when we bring presence to the process. Our journey begins with the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is the feminine side of the root chakra, or the first chakra. We are starting here at the most karmic sign. This is the place of suffering through karmas, of bearing burdens, doing the hard work, enduring and surviving. Capricorn is first and foremost ruled by the moon, and secondarily by Saturn. This is where you put your head down and get the job done. Remember, this is part of the realm of the Asuras, of doing the hard work. The southern solstice begins with Capricorn. And so the clarity as to why you're doing the hard work comes much later on. Capricorn is where you figuratively plant a seed or an intention for what you want to see come to life. This is a receptive field where you accept the karmic path that's before you and do the work required for success. Aquarius is the masculine side of the root chakra. It's ruled by Sun and Saturn. Here we're still enduring, but with more doing and producing than in Capricorn. Here you're of service to yourself and for the common good. The seed planted in Capricorn is now taking form and gestating in Aquarius. Survival is still a key component because we're still in this Saturnine energy. And safety of your environment is crucial. Pisces. Pisces is the feminine side of the sacral chakra, or the second chakra. It's ruled by the moon and Jupiter. Pisces is not the polarity that produces the creativity of the second chakra. However, it is the place where you become receptive to your environment and you become more aware of possibilities. You're moving out of the first chakra's Saturnine energy, where you're dealing with the basics of life, surviving, and just making sure that you're safe. Now you're moving into the Jupiter energy of opportunity, optimism, and expansion. The seed planted in Capricorn, that germinated in Aquarius, is now sprouting in Pisces, but still in an undifferentiated state. So what this means is that your intention may not be fully defined yet. Now we come to Aries, the masculine side of the solar plexus chakra, or the third chakra. It's ruled by the Sun and Mars. In Aries, you may want to ask yourself this question: what are you doing with the observations that you took in from Pisces? You may find that you're starting to assert your individuality and realizing your personal power more. It's kind of like the sprout that is starting to define itself. Your intentions may start defining themselves more here. This is also the beginning of the northern or Deva realm, so perhaps a little more idealism happening in here. In this sign, you may act first and think later. You may also tend to test boundaries and see what's more possible and take an active role, but maybe with more of a gut instinct and less of a thinking through before you go on. Taurus is the feminine side of the heart chakra, or the fourth chakra. It's ruled by the moon and Venus. Venus is known for helping you make choices for higher fulfillment, and it can also deal with how satisfied you feel. If you've survived the experience of Aries, you get to go into the receptive field of Taurus. Taurus can deal a lot with creating resources for yourself, now that you've become this more individual power in the third chakra, and having loved ones around you. You get to now reflect upon if you're able to come into a more comforting and loving space within yourself after you've been pushing boundaries in the front part of the third chakra. Gemini is the masculine side of the throat chakra, or the fifth chakra. It's ruled by the Sun and Mercury. It's in this sign and in this front part of the throat chakra that exploration starts to happen. Developing of reason and concepts is beginning. There's an experimentation with your own ideas. And it also makes sense, being at the throat, that this is where you start to communicate outwardly and learn how to develop boundaries. In Aries, you tested boundaries by acting first. In Gemini, you're going through all of your calculations first and then acting based on your data. Cancer. It's the feminine side of the brow chakra, or the sixth chakra. It's ruled by the moon alone. It's the feminine, reflective aspect of your inner light. In this sixth chakra lies intuition and imagination. Here is the height of how far north the sun will travel across the earth. So in Cancer, this is where you have the most capacity to make choices. It is from this point of view, like being at the top of a mountain peak, where you can overlook everything and see the big picture of your life. This is a place of pure awareness, vision, and where you can make executive decisions for how you want your life to unfold. This is also a place of impulse control. So you're not just going with your karmas because that's what you've always known. This is where you actually have the power to change your path, to be adaptable, and to co-create with the world around you. It is one of the most powerful placements within your chakras to no longer just go with your old karmic patterns if you don't want to. Leo is the masculine side of the brow chakra. It's ruled by the sun alone. When the divine decree from the clarity that you found in the feminine side of the brow chakra in Cancer goes into the masculine side, it's because it's being carried out for the rest of the cycle. Leo is the field of sovereignty and action. So if there's something that you want to achieve based on the understanding that you received from Cancer, do it during the season when the sun is in Leo, or within your own inner consciousness of Leo. The sun has already reached its highest northern point in Cancer and is now on the descending path. So by the time you've reached Leo, you've chosen your direction for whatever intention you planted at the beginning of Capricorn. Virgo is the feminine side of the throat chakra. It's ruled by the moon and Mercury. In this sign of Virgo, it's receiving the master plan from Leo, from a very high point, from Cancer and Leo, where all this idealism went on. And so just as we had learned that Gemini was the masculine side of Mercury, Virgo is the feminine side of mercurial energy. And so we're not communicating so much, we're using that organizing ability of Mercury here, the manager part. And in the sign of Virgo and in the back of the throat, that's how you're figuring out how to apply this great plan that you got up in your sixth chakra, up between the brow. You're figuring out the on-the-ground steps that need to happen to make the inspiration make sense. It's a very practical part of this chakra. And it's necessary to do this kind of assessment of how the plan will work behind the scenes. It's not something that you're going to be doing out in front of everyone. Libra is the masculine side of the heart chakra. It's ruled by the sun and Venus. So now we're in the front part of the heart. It's the outward expression of inspiration, love, connection, and exchange. Libra is where we think about relationships, whether those are romantic or business partnerships. Here we're also beginning the southern and Asura realm. So we're starting to get more into the hard work. And we're working hard as we're taking the plan that was directed from Leo and perfected in Virgo to get expressed into action with others in Libra's energetic. Libra is all about the other and the exchange and the interaction. In the Northern Hemisphere, the season of Libra is a time of harvest and sharing. It's when you reap what you've sown up to that point in the cycle of what you planted from the very beginning. Scorpio is the feminine side of the solar plexus chakra. It's ruled by the moon and Mars. So now we're in the back and left of the third chakra. It's a place of retreat and rest, and of storing the remaining harvest, and of storing memories. And so what's the remaining harvest? Well, think about all those intentions that you've cultivated through this whole cycle. And we were just in Libra, where you were sharing those intentions with others. So now you might have some intentions that are left over, perhaps, or you've got even more intentions than you knew you had before. And so you're using this to build energy within yourself. And let's remember that Scorpio is a sign of transformation. So while you're accumulating energy, you may also be releasing karmas, old energy, that no longer serves you. It's so important to remember that the Scorpio field is the calm, aspect of Mars. It's where you get to regulate your nervous system. So by being self-regulated, you're now ready to move into the final stage of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the masculine side of the sacral chakra. It's ruled by the Sun and Jupiter. So now here we are in the front and right of the second chakra, where you get to express yourself. This is where the creativity and manifestation come into being, whether that's children or a project you've been working on or building a legacy. You've been through the whole cycle of developing your intentions and your vision, of interacting with others and sharing, and then coming into a place of rest. And now in Sagittarius, at the end of this hero's journey, you get to raise your symbolic bow and arrow and aim for the next cycle. Here's where you get to spread the new and improved seed or intention, again in Capricorn. Now we've been through the whole hero's journey of the polarities of the chakras, and so I'm bringing this image back into your awareness once more, the view from behind and then the side view of how this flow is happening up and down, or up and around the chakras. And you can bring it into not only how you're planning your year, but I feel like more importantly into your meditation cycle. And this is why. Every time you consciously breathe along your spine with the intention to release attachment to karmas, you go through this chakra cycle and reduce the impact of your karmic fate. So what does this mean? I feel like the emphasis is really on your intention to release attachment to karmas, because you might be living your life and really seeing now where these karmas are happening over and over again, these old habits and patterns, this momentum from past lives. And the key is in releasing your attachment to them. It creates a bit of space between your experience and your witnessing of the experience. And so every time you're breathing in and out and going up and down the chakra cycle, then you start to see, oh, I don't need to hold on to this experience anymore. I can just see it for what it is. And you start to feel a little more free about what's happening in your life. And you find that your life starts to take a new direction. This might happen slowly, it might happen very quickly. Next, we're going to look at a couple of case studies so that you can start to see how we apply this somewhat abstract concept. So before we jump into the examples, let's talk about what we're actually looking at here. We're going to start combining karma, the zodiac, and the chakras. So how do you know where your karmas are placed within your chakra system? It's the placement of the planets within your natal zodiac that reveals the karmas that are occurring in your life. So planetary energy gets stored in the body, mind, and the chakras. The chakras, as we have discussed, link up to the zodiac signs, and these are like fields or soil, so to speak. So karmas, as represented by the planets and the lunar nodes, are like seeds within the fields of the zodiac within your chakras. These karmas naturally express themselves in your everyday life, or they're waiting for a triggering planetary cycle or transit to come along to express themselves from within you. We're first going to start with the example of Dr. Maya Angelou. She was an African-American icon who was an inspiration to people all over the world. She started out her career in entertainment, but became a poet and a novelist. She eventually got involved in the civil rights movement of the 1960s as an activist, and was a collaborator and friends with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Her impact helped redefine how people thought about race and culture. Now we see where her planets are placed, these karmas for her specific makeup. We'll start with Mars because it's in Aquarius. We're starting at the base chakra, the first chakra. Mars is in the front of the first chakra. Then we move into Pisces, into the back of the second chakra. Mercury and Venus are there. And then we move up into Aries, into the front of the third chakra. The Sun and Jupiter are there. There are no planets in Taurus. And so we move into Gemini, and there we have Rahu, the north node of the moon. There are no planets in Cancer, Leo, or Virgo, but the moon is in Libra. The moon is in the front part of the heart chakra. Nothing's in Scorpio. And then we go into Sagittarius, where Saturn is retrograde and K2 lives. And it's here that I would like to insert another reminder to see the birth chart in its entirety. That this perspective from the planets and the chakras is just one facet of a multifaceted diamond. Now, having said that, what can be a takeaway from this example? While so much can be said, what first stood out to me is her Rahu placement in Gemini. She really used her voice in a powerful way. And Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is what we're going to look at now. It's in Pisces, and Rahu is getting Rashi aspected from Mercury being in Pisces. And Mercury is actually in good dignity. It's beyond the first 15 degrees of debilitation, and now it's in friend's dignity. It's also getting delighted by Venus. So all of this bodes well for this Rahu energy in Gemini in the front part of her throat chakra. She received information from her environment in Pisces and used the pioneering quality of Rahu in her voice for expressing, exploring new boundaries, innovating, and communicating on behalf of her race of people. Next up, we have Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was a Hong Kong American martial artist and actor. He helped popularize martial arts films in the 1970s in the West. At that time, he bridged a gap between East and West through his martial arts skills and philosophies, and changed the way that Chinese people were portrayed in American films. Now let's look at his planetary placements. I'm going to start in Aries, and so we see K2 is there as the south node. K2 is in the front part of the solar plexus chakra. In Taurus, Jupiter's in retrograde and Saturn is in retrograde. And this is in the back of the heart chakra. There are no planets in Gemini, Cancer, Leo, or Virgo. However, he has Rahu, the north node, in Libra, the front part of the heart chakra. In Scorpio, in the back and to the left of the third chakra, he has Venus, Mars, the moon, and Mercury. And then lastly, in Sagittarius, we see the sun, which is in the front part of the second chakra. I bring this example to you because I find it fascinating that most of his karmic imprints were centered in the third and fourth chakras, and that his nodes were in the masculine, outgoing positions in the front and right, and that the majority of his embodied planets were in the feminine, receiving aspects of his chakra centers. Again, so much can be said about a person's life and their birth chart, but I'll simply say that Bruce Lee charged into his incarnation with a lot of solar plexus power and courageous heart. Seeing so many planets in the negative polarity reminds me of one of his most famous quotes. He said, "Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water." And then later he says, "Be water, my friend." This philosophy emphasizes the importance of being adaptable, fluid, and receptive to the present moment. And what about you? Where are your karmic imprints in your current incarnation within your chakras? What can you recognize and breathe into? What can you stay present with? Which patterns and habits are you needing to see for what they are? not to dig into them and overanalyze them or dwell upon, but to acknowledge and release over and over again as you inhale and exhale. Witness when and how you get triggered in a certain chakra. Breathe there with compassion and forgiveness if you can. Then let it go. And remember to stay curious. When is doing something about your karmas appropriate? And when is reducing your reaction to an old pattern appropriate? There may be a tendency to only want to remove supposedly negative karmas from your life. Whether a pattern is negative or positive is simply a story in your mind. In the end, we're all living out our previous imprints, whether they're seen as positive or negative. I encourage you to be here in this moment as often as you can. Listen to what's indicated moment to moment, and you'll find that life is perpetually unfolding in an orchestra of perfection very few of us could have ever imagined. Now we've reached the end of this presentation. In review, we went over the nature of karma in general. We looked at some basic concepts in Vedic astrology. We checked in with the polarities within you. And then we linked the tropical zodiac in your chakra system. Then we went on to utilize the energetic of the sun through the zodiac of your chakras. We then brought it into what could be a meditation cycle for you. And then we finished with a couple case studies to show how these concepts that we've gone over can be applied. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Bronwyn Beata. I'm the author of Quiet Light Reflections on Substack, which you can find at quietlightreflections.substack.com. For more information on Asheville Vedic Astrology, please visit their website at ashevillevediciastrology.wordpress.com, or you can go to their YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@RyansVedicAstrology. And to become an Asheville Vedic Astrology apprentice and learn as I have learned, please visit vedic-astrology.teachable.com.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that presentation. As I mentioned, I do feel it gives a very interesting look at how our inner microcosm, the microcosm of our body, reflects in the macrocosm of the solar system. And when we can start to see and feel that, as Bronwyn pointed out, that can give us a lot of insights in how to work with our own life from a spiritual perspective. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the Asheville Vedic Astrology Apprenticeship Program, Bronwyn already mentioned a good bit about that. You can go to vedic-astrology.teachable.com, and there you'll find the 2-year self-paced program, and you can look over all of the classes through the syllabus. And a lot of what Bronwyn was discussing in this particular video, a lot of what she was discussing was covered in the first module, the Rashis and Signs class, where we discuss the zodiac, the nature of the zodiac, and how it relates to our energetic system. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as I mentioned, if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section below. And I look forward to being in touch with you soon. And I encourage you, if you have the opportunity, once Bronwyn completes her program of study and you need a Vedic astrologer, I'd recommend seeking her out. Or you can also go to ashevilleVedicAstrology.wordpress.com, and you can go to the Vedic Astrologers tab, and there's a listing of all of the students who've already graduated from the program and are practicing Vedic astrologers. And they were all trained by the offerings in the Asheville Vedic Astrology Apprenticeship Program. All right, be well. Peace.